Bienvenue, benvenuti, and welcome to Expatriotical, the podcast for expats, travelers, and other adventurous souls. I'm Chandra, and after living as an expat with my husband and 4 children in 2 different countries for almost 6 years, I've learned the arts of pivoting during pitfalls, traveling tastefully for less, and soaking in amazing new cultures without losing your own. Join me as we dive into the joys and challenges of travel and the expat life in every episode. Good morning, everyone. Well, actually, it's afternoon here right now, but whatever time it is where you are, I hope you are having a great day. You guys, today is an interview day, and I have been looking forward to this interview for quite some time. Not only because this is a topic that I have faced myself, but also because I get to walk through it with a dear friend of mine who lives here in Paris. She is smart and jovial and just a joy to be around. And I think the wisdom that she shares with us on the topic of pregnancy and giving birth in another country is so good. So let's not wait. Let's jump right in. My guest today, she is a dear friend to me, and could you just go ahead and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Abby Helms. I'm living here in Paris with my husband and my 5 kiddos, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about today.
Yes, absolutely. And can you, Abby, tell me a little bit about your pre-expat life? Like, where did you grow up? And did you go to college somewhere? Where was that? What type of jobs did you have before? That sort of thing.
Yeah. So I grew up in the southern part of the United States. So I grew up in Jackson, Tennessee. And actually, we were living in Jackson, Tennessee before we moved to France. I met my husband in New Jersey. He was part of the Acts 29 church planting network at the time. And so I met him. We had our 2 big kids in New Jersey and New Brunswick, kind of 45 minutes outside of New York City. And then we moved back to Jackson, Tennessee, like I said, because my husband was going back to school. He wanted to go to seminary. And so I just needed some help. And it was more affordable to be back in Tennessee. So while he was in school and working, and I was working as well, we had the benefit of having grandparents in town and aunts,
that's wonderful.
And uncles, and it was.
Oh, it broke up a little bit. So sorry.
Okay, you're back now. I didn't know if I should say anything or not. Yeah, I hear you now.
Yeah, sorry. It says it's my internet. I do not understand what's going on. But anyway, so you moved back, had support from grandparents, which was fantastic. Was that a good synopsis?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Absolutely.
And so can you tell me what your family dynamic was like right before moving abroad?
Sure. At that time, we had 3 kids. And like I said, Paul was working and in seminary. And then I was working as well as a marketing director at a school that I loved. And life was sweet, but it was so busy, Chandra. That's how I would describe it when I think back on that time. And I think that's a pretty typical American experience is, just a lot of running back and forth here and there. My kids were beginning to get involved in activities, and we had just a ton of friends and family and different events to go to, all good. But I didn't even realize how busy I was. It was actually when I moved to France that things sort of slowed down and kind of synced up in a really nice way. But yeah, sweet years right before we moved to France, but with 3 little kids who were beginning school and things like that, it was just busy, just a lot of back and forth.
Wow. That's such an interesting take that moving abroad, which is a huge thing, actually slowed life down for you. So that's really exciting. And so can you tell us about the opportunity that brought you here to Paris?
Yeah, sure. So we are Christians. As I mentioned, my husband was in seminary, and honestly, he had been interested in France for a long time. I mean, he loved the culture, the language. My husband's really good at languages. And so he was always interested. I, on the other hand, I was happy to vacation to France anytime, but I was very clear on the fact that I did not want to move to France. But like I said, as we kind of wrestled with that for several years, up to like 5, 6, 7 years of kind of just not being quite on the same page, I began to realize that I had sort of taken something off the table. And with Christians, kind of one of the cornerstones of our faith is just living open-handedly. So, literally surrendering our lives joyfully to God, use them how he wants to. And I had kind of said, I'll do anything, but I won't do that. And so as God worked on me and my heart in that scenario, I just became more open to France in general. Okay. And as I was open, Paul was doing a bit of research, connecting with pastors here in France, and we discovered international churches. And this was a new concept to both of us. And so for me, it felt like an open door because the biggest thing that I was concerned about was language. I am not good at language. It's really, really challenging for me. And so that was super intimidating. But an international church sort of took that factor away because our church functions in English. Yeah. So that is what brought us to France, was starting one of those churches in Paris in the 17th arrondissement. Yeah.
Awesome. So, and that's how I know you, by the way, everybody. When we were church shopping, maybe not everybody likes that terminology and the process of it. I personally don't love doing it. It's not my favorite thing to do it. But as we did that, we ended up going to Emmanuel International Church of Paris in the 17th arrondissement at Terne. And I'm going to say that like I usually do with my American accent, Terne, like versus me trying to say with a French accent. So would you say that your family is or was or currently still is pretty immersed in French culture? Or would you say that you walk like a fine balance between being still, I don't know how you would put that, but.
Yeah, I feel like some people say, "Oh, it's nice. You kind of have a foot in both worlds." And I'm like, it's more like an awkward split. Yeah, I would say that we are as immersed as we can be. Yeah. I think with internationals, and we knew this moving in, it's really easy to sort of create a bit of a third space or third culture. And honestly, there's a lot of benefits to that we have benefited from. But for Paul and I, it was super important that we immerse ourselves in the physical space and culture that we were in. So for us, that was Paris and French culture. And so we had to be really intentional about that. So we, stuck our kids in French public school right away, which was wild. But they learned the language quickly. And so then since they were in French school and speaking French, the friends they were making were French, and thereby the parents that we were interacting with were French, as well as our neighbors and everything else. And so I would say that we tried hard not to resist the way of like doing things the French way. And we tried to really embrace it as much as we could. I will say though, I mean, this is our experience. I'm not saying this is everyone's, but I do think there's still this sense of we're always going to be outsiders to a certain degree. Yeah. But we have, I think, immersed ourselves as much as we can. And like I said, we kind of get the benefits of there's things that, gosh, we love about France and French culture. And then it's so refreshing at times to just be able to hang out with my international friends and speak English or, resonate over something or just be confused together, even if we're from different parts of the world.
Just be confused together.
So it's really kind of been the best of both worlds. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic. Okay. So when you threw all three kids into international school, how old were they?
So when we moved here, I actually didn't realize this. When we moved here in 2019, that was the first year that Paris required 3-year-olds to go to school. So my youngest was 3, and then our daughter, Ollie, was 5, and Silas was 7. And it's interesting because in French public schools, they don't offer any language programs whatsoever until you hit 7 years old. So my little kids just went straight into a French classroom with no pullouts, no help, no translation. They just went in. And I think that's because, a lot of those grades you're learning. Yeah. What are the colors? What are the numbers? Here's a storybook. And France actually does a really good job with those young grades. And so they were just kind of thrown in. And then my older son, Silas, he was 7. And so he was still in the public school system, but he had to go to a school that was a few blocks further than my other kids because at that school they had a language program. So once you're 7 years old, you do get pulled out to make sure you understand the language, and then you kind of get eased back in. So by the end of the year, he was fully back into the French classroom, but he did get some language help that year. And then by the time my other 2 kids reached 7 years old, they were already fluent. So they didn't need the pullouts. Yeah, kids are amazing.
Are you jealous? I'm jealous.
I'm very jealous. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Incredible. It's incredible. Okay, so then if I know my math right, fast forward 5 years, right? Or about 5 years,
Yep.
and you
Yep.
have a 12-year-old, at that, I guess basically last year, a nine, gonna go on 10, and then an almost
Yeah.
8-year-old, correct?
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you found out some really exciting news, some surprising news.
Yeah. So, like I said, it was like you said, it was a total surprise. So we ended up being pregnant with twins. Yeah, 4 years in, we're 5 years in now, and the pregnancy was a surprise. The twins were a surprise. It was just kind of a wild ride.
It is you, and handled it so gracefully. What were your thoughts like when you found out specifically that it's twins? Not only that you're pregnant, but it's like, yeah, there's two.
Yeah. Yeah. So I found out just at a normal ultrasound. I mean, Paul wasn't even there. Like he was home with the other kids.
Oh
And
my
so
goodness.
in France, you actually go to a different office for your ultrasounds. It's like off-site. And so my normal doctor had just sent me to have my first ultrasound. I wasn't expecting, I mean, again, this is like going to be number 4. I've done this before, just kind of rolling in, no big deal. And I noticed it was a sweet little old French man, and he kind of had the ultrasound up on the screen. And I'm not very medical, so I'm just kind of like, okay, there's some blob. I guess that's the baby. I don't know. And I'm just kind of looking at it, but then I quickly realized there's something going on that I'm not getting because the doctor who's doing the ultrasound, he's just smiling at me and he's not moving the screen. Like he has got the screen locked in and just smiling at me. And finally it dawns on me like, okay, is this what I think it is? And he says, "It's 2." And I just said, "No, no, no, I already have 3." And then he said, "Your life has changed." And I just started laughing like a crazy person. I mean, not like a sweet little motherly laugh, like a, "Oh my goodness, what is happening?" laugh. But you're right. I mean, it's been hilarious, and we've just had to embrace the fun and craziness of it all.
And they are so precious. They are. Do you feel comfortable?
They
You shared
are.
the other kiddos' names. Can you share their names?
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So my babies' names are Jude and Keller, and my husband insisted they have French middle names. So it's Jude Pascal and Keller Henri. Yeah.
And they are so precious, and they're just adorable, and they're such a delight. And so, okay, when you found this out, you found out you're having twins. Were you intimidated by having babies abroad? Had you had any prior experience, like personally, maybe not necessarily, it might have been with your kids and a broken bone or whatever, but especially you personally in a French hospital?
Yeah, I was intimidated, I'll be honest. We had experience with the French medical system just in like checkups, and then my boys are wild. So they've both been to the ER multiple times for stitches and different things. But honestly, I usually would send Paul with them because his language was better. And
Yeah.
so I had very, very little experience. I did not know. I'd had friends that had had babies here, and I'd kind of heard their pros and cons. And at the same time, it was probably a blessing that our life was just so full and busy. There wasn't really a lot of time to sit and fret about what it was going to be like. I mean, it was just kind of like, okay, we're doing this. And one thing that really calmed me down that I didn't know was I didn't realize that France is one of the world's leaders in multiples. So, like the hospital here, the doctors here, France does a lot for research in multiples and just pregnancies and deliveries. And by God's providence, I ended up with an amazing doctor, Professor Veal, and he is kind of world renowned for his work with research and pregnancy and delivery of multiples. So I quickly realized that I was in really good hands, and that helped, I think, with all the unknowns.
Absolutely. And it's so ironic because my friend Mallory, who is going to do an interview with me tomorrow, actually, which will broadcast or air, I should say, in a few weeks. But I can tell we're kind of pixelated. I'm sorry. So I hope you can still hear me. But that she also experienced the same doctor and had just amazing things to say. So I think what a small world that was. And let me see. Let's.
Oh, oh, Oh yeah, I think I met her at your house, Chandra.
Yes, that's right. That's how we
Yeah,
discovered it.
we met at your place, and we were like, we have the same doctor. Yes.
Yes, it was for
Yeah, he's great.
Chris's
He's awesome.
40th, I think. I think that's what it was. So it was last year,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
almost
yeah,
to
yeah.
the day. We're literally a week short of that. That's
Yeah,
crazy. Okay, so
yeah.
after the initial shock settled in, what were your next steps? Was it to find the right doctor, or what did you need to do, feel you needed to do next?
Yeah, so thankfully, since I was having multiples, I kind of just got assigned straight away to
Okay.
Necker. So here in France, it's kind of a different system. There's sort of like of hospitals, and then depending on how much care you need, you kind of get put at a certain level hospital.
Okay.
And so for me, having multiples kind of put me on that path right away. And then my pregnancy was sort of like mid range because my babies had separate sacs, but they shared a placenta. So because of that, there was a bit of risk added. And so I got basically got assigned to Professor Veal. And then my doctor also helped put in a recommendation because they happened to be friends, and he spoke fluent English, and I was so grateful for that. And so once I was with Professor Veal, I just kind of had things laid out for me. So it was a pretty, I come in this week and that week, and we do this test and that one, all the way to the pregnancy. So once
Okay.
I was in with him, it was pretty straightforward. As typical with France, there was quite a bit of paperwork to do, but thank goodness my husband's really good at that stuff, and he kind of took over. The one time that I tried to do it myself and help out, I totally messed it up, and we had some massive bill that we had to get corrected,
Oh
and it all
no.
worked out in the end. But yeah, France, they love their papers, and if you check the wrong box or send it to the wrong place, it just all gets messed up. But yeah, but you know what? It still worked out in the end because we had the babies in France. And if we had had them in America, it would have been so much more expensive.
Yes.
So, the French medical system definitely has its pluses and minuses. But I will say I was thankful when I got the bill to be in France.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So when the big day came, which can you remind me, was it a scheduled induction? Is that right? Like they would have let you go into labor,
Yeah.
but if not, it's going to be on this
Yeah.
day. Okay. What would you say that your overall experience was like? And obviously, you don't have to go into great detail if you don't want to, but like in general, what would you say your experience was like?
Yeah, I mean, I think I went in with pretty low expectations just
Okay.
because of the things I'd heard from other people or whatever. And so it was different than it had been delivering my other kids in the States. But to be fair, I had never had that level of intervention before. So all of it was pretty new to me. I do think in France, they are a little bit more quick to sort of set up a C-section or something like that. But thankfully, my doctor was really flexible because I had never had a C-section. So I was really hoping to avoid it. You guys were all praying for that with me. And in the end, he induced me. We tried. Because of my baby sharing a placenta, we really couldn't wait any longer. I was just past 36 weeks, and it was kind of getting to the point where it wasn't quite stable for them. So I knew that, I didn't have more time. I couldn't keep waiting. And after trying all day, we decided let's do the C-section. So in the end, we did have the C-section. And like I said, my experience was fine. I mean, there was definitely things that were different. I do think it's a bit more bare bones than maybe an American approach, but I had great care. I had the sweetest nurses. I mean, it was all happening fast and in French, so that was very overwhelming. But like I said, like they took really good care of me, and I'm thankful that all the right people were in place. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so then, what would you say during that? Like, was there a standout moment in that during that labor where you're just like, and then this funny thing happened, or like, and then I just felt like, okay, this is it. Was there a standout moment or something that Paul did where you're just like, it was just hilarious, or that
Oh
kind of
yeah.
thing?
Yeah, it's hilarious now. In the moment, it was not as hilarious. So, like I said, I had never had a C-section. I had really been hoping to avoid it. So, I didn't even do that much research. Like, I didn't really know exactly what to expect. So, I couldn't even tell you if this is totally French or totally American. But either way, one thing that is distinctly French is that when you have a C-section, as soon as the baby is out, and in my case, both babies, they take them immediately to the NICU. So I did not even see the babies. I mean, they didn't even like pop over the curtain to say hi, mom.
Oh, wow.
They took them out immediately. And what I didn't realize, and neither did my husband, but dad goes with the babies. So here I am having a C-section, which is overwhelming to begin with. And I know the babies are out, but I haven't seen them. And then all of a sudden, I think maybe Paul is over in a corner or something, and I suddenly realize, oh, he's gone and he is not coming back. And so I am alone in the operating room, and everyone is speaking French around me, and I'm just like, what is going on? What's happening behind this curtain? So that was super overwhelming, but turns out that's just a very normal French practice. And then the funny thing about it is that also what you should know, guys, ladies, if you're going to have a baby in France, is that you're supposed to bring the baby's clothes with you to the operating room or delivery room, wherever you are.
Whoa.
This is not normal in the States. In the States, you have the baby and they put that little pink and blue striped gown on them. And of course you bring your own clothes that you change them into once they get to your room and you get settled. But in France, that's not the case. So my husband shows up into the NICU with the babies and, where's the clothes? Where's the clothes? And he's like, in the car? I don't know. What do you mean? And so thankfully they were so kind. The nurses went and like literally dug out of like the donation closet and found some clothes to put on my babies. And it was hilarious because, I mean, it was like pink and red. And I had boys. I had two boys. And so in all the first photos of the babies that we're sending to my parents and different people, they're like, was it a girl? Did something happen? I mean, I remember Keller is in this like pink outfit because it's just all that they had. And we didn't realize, oh, we should have grabbed some clothes on the way to have the C-section. But yeah, just funny little lots of those moments being, not a native to whatever culture you're in.
Absolutely. It's so funny because I asked you, I mean, obviously, that Caleb was born in Italy. And so I thought, oh, Abby will be, I mean, now, gosh, I've had multiple friends now give birth, but you were one of the first people that I knew, and I knew well enough to ask. And for me, the experience was with breastfeeding, because in America, like, I just remember they're like, you need to get them to eat. You need to get them to eat, and struggling with getting, especially Carson to eat or whatever, and to nurse. Yeah. And so I just remember the very kind Russian nurse in America trying to assist me personally, and she was very sweet and stuff, and she got the job done, but we could not get Caleb to eat, like, nurse. He nursed initially, and then that was it. And then I tried to wake him up, and I just couldn't. He was just exhausted, apparently, as was I. And I would tell the nurses, and especially like the lactation consultant, and she was like, "È normale," which means it's normal. And I'm like, but I'm supposed to wake him up. And now, like, fast forward, I'm like, man, I wish I would have applied that mentality to all of my children. Like, it's fine. They're fine. They're going to be fine. Yeah, but it'll
be okay.
It's different when you
yeah, that was funny. I had a couple other moments sort of like that, Chandra, because I forgot about them until you said it, but I was nursing as well. And France is really great about that. They were super supportive and helpful with trying to nurse, especially with the babies being in the NICU. It's not easy. But one funny thing was they would bring, the hospital breakfast, which hospital breakfasts are bad everywhere, I'm sure. But I mean, my hospital breakfast was a typical French thing. I had like 4 types of bread and some coffee. I was like, guys, I am trying to nurse 2 babies. Where's the bacon? Where's the protein? I need some more food than this. And it was funny too. My mom, she came from the States, and I'm so glad she brought me this big water bottle. It wasn't a Stanley, but kind of like that are very popular in the States. Nothing like that exists here in France, by the way. But yeah, the cup they gave me was this tiny little glass that I could like fill throughout the day if I needed to be hydrated. And so all the nurses would laugh because I had this massive water bottle that, honestly, I'm not exaggerating, was bigger. And they would say, this water bottle is bigger than your baby's. And it was just like the topic of conversation when the nurses would come in. But yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I love that. I love it so much. Okay, so once the twins were here and safe and everything, how did your experience change with caring for a baby here in France versus in America? Or would you say that it's about the same?
Yeah, for me, it hasn't been terribly different. I mean, obviously there's two, so I'm figuring that out. But as far as like culturally, I've been keeping the babies at home because here in France, that is a difference. There's not a lot of part-time options. I would have loved the idea of the babies going 1 or 2 days a week to some kind of, parents' day out type program. But here it's kind of all or nothing. You're kind of in full-time creche, which is like the daycare, or a lot of families hire news like a nanny to come and stay with the babies. That's not really an option for us, and so our desire was for me to stay home anyway. And so I've been with the babies. So because I've been the one home with them, it hasn't been too different. Some things that are different are, using the metric system. So even when I was in the hospital, it was, how many milliliters are they drinking? And
Yes.
when they go to their checkups, how many kilograms do they weigh? And things like that. So I'm always like converting in my head. What is it? And a different thing here too is actually when they do, I'm sure you figured this out, Chandra, when they have their vaccines, and I appreciate that France has a slower schedule than America. That's nice as well. But when they do need a vaccine, you actually pick that up at the pharmacy and you
Oh my
stick it in your
goodness.
fridge until you go to the
Yes.
doctor. And they were supposed to go last week, and I forgot. I forgot the vaccines in the fridge. So here I am at the doctor, and she's like, "Where are your vaccines?" And I said, "Oh no, I forgot them." So we had to run and get them. But yeah, so those things are different. But otherwise, I mean, at this point, it's since they've been home with me, it hasn't been too. Except for if I take them out, I always have to remember a blanket or something because French people really want babies to be warm, and that's lovely. That's lovely, France. But everyone will come up to me and tell me, "Your baby needs a sweater, your baby needs a blanket, your baby needs, whatever it is." And so I've learned how to say, "Oh, thank you," and just gotta keep
Just
going.
keep going. There you go. Just keep going. Okay, so it sounds like you guys, I mean, that was kind of my next question. It's 7 months down the road now. And do you all feel like you've reached a new normal?
Yeah, I mean, our life is wild. Like, no one who's coming to the Helms house is like, those people have it down. So, normal for us has always been pretty chaotic. And so, they've just kind of had to like be along for the ride. But they make us so happy. I mean, they're just fun and they help us to keep things in perspective and keep things light. And my big kids have been really helpful as well as just like friends. I mean, at church, we're just kind of passing them around because I don't have enough arms. And even that has been a blessing. So yeah, I do think we're kind of finding our rhythm. Of course, with babies, everything changes. So it's like you sort of figure it out, and then a month later, you're starting all over because they have some new development or whatnot. But yeah, I would say that we're finding our way. Definitely don't have it all figured out by any means, but trying hard to enjoy the process, which I think with my big kids I maybe didn't always do as much because I was working and I was busy and you're just not thinking about it at the time. But with these surprise babies, it's like, this kind of unexpected round two to really try to soak it up and enjoy it.
That's funny because I've thought that myself, like that if that were to happen to Chris and I really would try to power through any hard, you know what I'm saying? Like where you end up kind of missing out on just them
Totally.
as babies. And so
Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful blessing that you have, that you get this opportunity to really soak in all of their adorable babiness and all the cute little things and the milestones and that sort of thing. So do you have any words of encouragement or insightful tips for somebody that's expecting, or like a couple or a mom that's expecting or planning to deliver in a new country as an expat?
Yeah, I mean it's not even just maybe specific to babies, but it is overwhelming, and there's going to be things about your home country that you wish were the case are now. But even if it's just the store and getting yourself excited about babies coming or whatever it is, like really try to embrace what is unique about, for me, French culture and kind of the French approach to healthcare or raising babies or, just in general. And I think the more you can really lean into those things and enjoy them and even kind of seek them out, like let's go figure out what is unique about this experience. And then don't be too hard on yourself in the times when you just want some kind of comfort from home. If you need somebody to mail you your favorite pacifier brand or, your favorite whatever it is, don't feel bad about that either. But yeah, just try to really lean in and embrace those differences wherever you can.
That's wonderful. And okay, so I have a few more questions to ask you as we are getting low on time. But will you please tell us your favorite thing about being an expat?
Okay, so it's kind of actually similar to what I just said. So I love art, I love history, I love travel, and all of those things are here in Paris. So I really love embracing kind of new things. I actually enjoy being out of my comfort zone. I can get in a bit of a rut when things start to feel kind of routine and predictable.
Yes.
So the more that I can kind of discover like, oh, this is how they do things here. This is, what everyone's making this time of year. And this is kind of the traditions. And this is, oh, look at this product they make. And like, I really love that. So there's a ton of challenges and frustrations, but those things where I can really embrace kind of the best and unique parts of different cultures really keeps my mind going, keeps me interested. And yeah, I love that about just being in a culture that's different than my own.
That's wonderful. And so what would you say your most memorable experience has been in these past 5+ years as an expat?
Definitely having babies.
Okay. Okay. There you go.
Everything we just talked about. It is, and probably forever and ever will be, the most memorable thing that I've done. I actually hear one of them. I hope you can't hear them coming through, but
I can, but I really feel
fine.
like it's a great end cap to the conversation is to hear,
okay, good.
Yes, we didn't make this up. They really exist.
But yeah, they're real. They're up there. Yeah. I'm going to be French and do the pause and just, wait for a second and see if they go back to sleep.
There you go.
No, Dad's with them. It's all good.
Okay, perfect. For our final question, Abby, would you please share anything that comes to mind for you as like words of wisdom, words of encouragement, or a tip for somebody that is an expat that finds themselves, whether it's a surprise pregnancy or whether it's a planned one, but getting ready to deliver in a country that is not their home country, their country of origin?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, my immediate answer is that, this is not happening to you by accident. You're exactly where you meant to be, and God is with you. But believer or not, it's kind of the same thing that I said before too. And pregnant or not, expecting or not, I think for internationals, just the idea that you've just got to make your own way, and it's okay to figure out how you are going to live in a different space, and it's not going to be the same as everyone else. And you're going to get lots of advice, and take what you can and let go of what doesn't work for you. Just whatever you do it in community. Don't do it by yourself. And I think that's the best thing that we as internationals can do, is just sync up with natives and internationals as well, and just put ourselves in good community. And then we all are just doing the best we can, one step at a time.
Exactly. One step at a time, together. And you know what? This has been it's been fun. It's been funny. We've worked through some technical challenges here, and I've just really appreciated you, Abby. Thank you so very much for taking your time to talk to us today and just sharing fun stories and some words of wisdom. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. And hey, happy listener here. I am subscribed. You're doing a great job, Chandra. I love your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just have to say thank you so much again to Abby for being so real and sharing with us the joys and ups and downs that were very, very real and very much a part of her experience as an expat giving birth to twins in a foreign country. I hope that you gleaned as much from the interview as I did. And if you know anyone that is currently in the same space or thinking of growing their family, can I encourage you to share this with them? Okay, guys, it's time for our Shan Select for this episode. Today's selection is another Paris-based pick. The first time I went there, immediately it popped into my mind that I should add this to my list of places that I wanted to talk about as a Shan Select. But then I went there again on Friday and it really pushed it to the forefront, and that's why it's this week's pick. As a bit of a backstory, I had kind of mentioned it in episode 11, Chandra Answers Your Burning Questions, because my dear friend Tasha asked me what I missed most about living in America and if it was breakfast. You see, breakfast has been, for many years, my favorite meal of the day. As a young person, let's say 20 years, maybe 25 years ago, if you would have asked me what my favorite meals were, I would have said breakfast and dessert, which I know is ridiculous because dessert is not a meal, but nonetheless, breakfast remains one of my favorite meals. Well, I guess there's only 3 meals in a day, so it has to be one of them, right? Anyway, I'm a big fan. So going out to eat breakfast has always been a real treat and really special to me. And brunch counts as breakfast for me as well. And that's exactly what this wonderful place serves. The name of it is Lazy Brunch, but they serve more than just brunch. They're open Wednesday through Friday from 12 to 2, and a full brunch is served on Saturday and Sunday from 10:30 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. From succulent avocado toast to smoked salmon eggs Benedict, French toast with salted butter caramel, grilled cheese on brioche served with delicious pastrami, or vegetarian with roasted red peppers, sweet or savory pancakes, homemade banana bread, golden lattes, which I had never heard of and now love, and a plethora of other delicious options. The menu is delightful, you guys. The ambiance is so cheery and quaint, and the service is friendly and welcoming. I went back the second time, and the manager, Zara, remembered my face and smiled as she said, "Welcome back." It's a great place for families, couples, a lunch with girlfriends, you name it. And you can even book it for a private event. I'll include the website in this episode's show notes. And as always, I am not an affiliate of Lazy Brunch at the time of this recording, nor am I being paid to recommend them. I just think they're amazing and thought you should know. Okay, that's it for today. One more thing before you go. If you have yet to follow me on your podcast platform, would you please do so? It really, really is helpful. It helps to boost the algorithm, and then other people can find this community, can find this podcast, and it can help them out. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode and that it's got your mouth watering for more next week. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you back here again soon. Until then, this is Chandra Alley reminding you to live and travel in the know with Expatriotical.